Hi guys, welcome back to the Shannon Show. So today's video is going to be a review of the season 5 of Black Mirror. So it's been a whole year, it's been back. This season has only been 3 episodes. I'm not sure why, because I feel like it had a big enough budget to have the usual 10-ish episodes. So 3 is a bit selfish, it's a bit stingy, but I was hoping that the 3 episodes were maybe going to be a bit longer, maybe like a Black Mirror movie for each 3 episodes to kind of make up for a lack of episodes. But they're still usual 60-minute kind of short films, because I feel like they're kind of like an hour kind of short films kind of thing, because they're all kind of like, all kind of standalone episodes. It's not like a narrative piece. They don't all link in with each other. They all kind of have similar themes, but they're all kind of standalone. I was hoping that all 3 of the episodes were going to be really strong to make up for the lack of episodes. So the first episode is called Striking Vipers, and it's got a very melanated cast, melanated mirror. I see Black Mirror. And basically the beginning is this couple called Jay and Theo. They meet in a club and then they hook up afterwards. And in the middle of the night, he gets up and meets his roommate, Carl, in the living room, and they play a game of, it's kind of like Mortal Kombat. They stay up playing it, and it's a thing where Carl wants to continue playing, but Jay says, oh, I need to go back to bed, like it's late. And that foreshadows the main plot of the episode. So you flash forward 11 years, Theo and Jay are married now, they have a son, and it's all a really happy, cute, nuclear family. Carl is single and he's dating, and it's kind of like set at Jay's 38th birthday barbecue. And Carl attends, and they haven't really seen each other in a while. Obviously, they're still friends, but as life is, things get in the way, and as you get older, you probably don't see your friends as often as you'd like to. And he gives him, and for his birthday, Carl gets him a game that they played at the beginning of the episode, the Striking Vipers Mortal Kombat-esque game. So initially I thought that the main plot and the main theme was gonna center around the video game. I didn't know exactly what it was gonna be. I first thought that it was gonna be something surrounding video game addiction. I thought it was going to touch on that issue, which it kind of did. So at the end of the night, Jay kind of tests out the game, but it's not like how it used to be. It's now interactive and upgraded in a high tech interactive experience, and it's got that little thing that you put in your head or whatever, the little chip or whatever that turns up a lot in the episodes to put it on the brain, and you can turn into the characters and you can feel their pain and you fight like them, and it's really interactive. So they play the game, and then so they're like the avatars. So Jay is I don't know what character to compare them to. I've played Mortal Kombat before, but I can't really remember all of their names. But say Jay is like a normal kind of male fighter, and Carl plays like a kind of Chun-Li-esque character per se. Let's just compare that. So a girl fighter character, and he has like a male fighter character. So they play the game and they start fighting with each other, and I could already sense it's getting a bit intimate, like a bit juicy. Like I thought perhaps it was just a choreographed fighting scene, and they had just like intent. I feel like some in like fight scenes, especially when it's a girl versus a boy, they usually kind of like sex it up anyway. So when it started to get a bit sexed up, I didn't really think anything of it until Carl's female avatar kissed Jay's male avatar. And then obviously Jay's confused and he exits out the game. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Because obviously the game emulates the feelings inside the game. So say if somebody punches you, you can feel the punch. Obviously, it's not a real punch, but you can feel the punch. And I guess if you kiss somebody, you can feel like, the buzz of having a kiss. So they kind of exit out. It gets a bit weird because even though, but at that point, it's kind of like, is it like well, what does this mean for their relationship now? Like, are they gay? Or is it just a thing where it's inside the game, it's a fantasy thing? So then after that, they kind of like, well, Jay kind of feels weird about it, but he's thinking about it. He keeps thinking about the game. And yeah, so he keeps kind of thinking about the game, like it's lingering in his brain. He's at work and he's thinking about it. So then at night now, it's just kind of become a ritual thing. He goes and plays the game again the next night. And Carl comes online, they play together. So yeah, it's an interactive experience now. So it's kind of like Xbox, you can play with your friends. So Carl invites him to like play the game online. They play it again, and then this time they just full on have sex in the game. So now it's obviously, at this point we still kind of don't really know what it is. Are they gay? Or is it, but at the same time it's a male and female avatar. So I'm thinking it's kind of like one of those like, I remember there was this scandal like a few years back, like years ago, probably about 10 years ago. I'm not sure what the game was called, but it was basically like this experience. It wasn't a fighting game, but it was kind of almost like The Sims, but online, but like very like hypersexualized, and you can like have an online relationship and have sex with people, and it's supposed to like imitate that. And like people like considered it cheating, and there was a whole scandal about it. So I'm thinking it's kind of like that. They start to become addicted to the game and they're just playing it every night, sort of like almost like becoming addicted to porn. Like they're addicted to the fantasy, they're addicted to the feeling, and it starts messing up their relationships. Obviously Carl's single, but he just like can't get it up anymore because I guess nothing compares to the experience, and it kind of like elevates it further because it's not just like it like stuff like porn and stuff, that's just visual gratification, while if you are actually feeling it, that's a whole different type of gratification. I can imagine that feeling will be very addictive. So now I guess like their sex lives are just not the same anymore, even though they're both in kind of like, well, obviously Carl's kind of single but dating, but obviously Jay has a wife, they're in committed relationships. It's kind of not the same. So it's kind of like when they have, so Jay's just stopped having sex with his wife altogether, and Carl can't like last very long. And so they just keep doing it every night, and it's just getting a bit weird. And then obviously it starts to have an effect and on their real life. Like every day they're just thinking about it, and then a situation basically ends up where Jay basically is just thinking about having sex on the fantasy game and forgets it's him and his wife's anniversary, which again shows just how much the addiction has taken hold, that they've just kind of forgotten about their real life. So then at their kind of anniversary dinner, obviously his wife realizes they're not having sex anymore. And obviously that's kind of like understandable, like in a marriage, after you've been together for a long time, things like that might happen. A lot of people complain about that. But the fact that they were also trying for a baby makes it seem extra, extra suspicious. That is because like it's not even like you just are tired and you don't want to have sex, like we agreed to have another baby, like we got to at least do something to try for this baby, and you don't even want to do that. So obviously she's very suspicious at this point, and she basically she has this speech, and I'm feeling it, it's kind of like she feels unwanted, and yeah, she feels like when people chat her up, like she wants to cheat on him because she's not feeling appreciated, and she tells him, what's going up, is there someone else, like what's the deal. He keeps it, he plays it cool and doesn't really say anything, But then after that, he realizes how much the addiction of the fantasy game has taken over his life. So he decides to stop the game. So he stops the game and then evidently stops talking to Carl because Carl, obviously, he doesn't have that commitment of a wife and kid. So he just wants to kind of carry it on, and he's like really upset that Jay doesn't want to, play the game per se. So Jay stops it, and then his relationship with his wife improves. They manage to get pregnant, and it's all going good. Then it's the next year. So it's Jay's birthday, and Theo invites Carl over. Obviously, she doesn't know what's been going on between them, but she invites him over to be nice, and she feels like, they haven't really been keeping in touch. So she invites him over to be nice. Obviously, at the dinner, it's a bit awkward, and they try and play it cool, but obviously Jay's kind of upset that he's accepted the invitation to come because he easily could have said no. And he probably has, twigged on that he's probably going to try and come and convince him to play the game again. So he comes, the dinner is awkward, and then when his wife leaves the room, Carl basically tries to convince him to come back on the game, and he's like, you'll never get that experience, that sexual experience anywhere else. Like, it doesn't feel as good in real life. That scene actually fucking killed me when he was like, oh, what do you call it? I know you missed the feeling of my wet pussy. Oh my gosh, I was just cracking up. That scene, that's probably my favourite scene that I've watched out of the whole year. That's probably my favourite scene. But yeah, he's putting in work. He's doing his sales speech, and he's basically like, what do you call it? Come see me at midnight in the game. Obviously, he sold it well. Like, he sold it to me. Like, I was gonna go if there was a striking viper after that speech. I would have been seeing him at midnight too. So Jay goes on the app. I guess it's his birthday, so he's probably thinking, why the hell not? It's my birthday. And then after they have sex on the game, Carl was like, Carl basically says that he loves him, but inside the game, I guess as the female avatar. So obviously Jay's like, hold on a minute, like, this is just supposed to be sex, like, this is not supposed to be emotional shit kind of thing. And then that kind of like raises the question of things like, also with the game, obviously you didn't have that enhanced element of physical emulation, but it kind of questions of things of this nature that already exist online. Do they blur? Is it just solely fantasy? Is it just solely online, and whatever's online stays online, or does it seep into real life? So after that, he's confused, and he basically tells Carl to meet him, like, up with him in real life. So they meet up, and Jay's basically like, kiss me, so I'll know if this is real or not, or whether it's just like solely fantasy. So they kiss, and they both decide, like, yeah, it's literally just the game. Like, we're not gay or anything, or we're not like into each other. It's literally just the game. And then after that, Jay is kind of like, obviously he has the family, and he feels guilty for. I would classify it as cheating, yeah. Well, cheating on his family, and then they have a fight, and then they end up getting picked up by the police, and Jay gets picked up with his wife, and the wife basically asks him, like, obviously it looks very dodgy after, because she kind of felt the kind of animosity between them at the dinner, and then they're meeting up in the middle of the night, and they get like they get picked up by the police for fighting. It's looking very suspicious. It's looking very dodgy. So, she asked him, what were they fighting about? And Jay tells him, but they basically that device where you see them speak, but you can't hear what they're saying. And then the episode kind of ends. I'm not sure how I feel about the kind of linking in with the post credits and the end of the film. That's what they've been doing now. But yeah, so in the post credits, you kind of have snippets of what happened after. Sorry, I keep itching my nose. I don't know why it's so itchy. And we don't know what they spoke about, but with the end credits, it looks like he admitted to like the online fantasy game, and basically then we see her on a date. So I think that they agreed that he was allowed to play the game with Carl. I guess probably not every day, maybe like they have a set time like once a week or once a month, and then she gets to go out on dates and hook up with other people, and they've come to that agreement, and that's how it ends. So I thought that was really interesting. I really enjoyed the episode. I really liked like the twist. The writing was really strong for that episode. I really enjoyed that episode. I'd give it a 4 out of 5. I thought it was a really strong, I thought it was a really strong opening episode, and I really enjoyed it. And the kind of questions that pick up, about this kind of reality, like this reality gaming, like in the future, if we could somehow replicate this. Is it problematic if you are in a relationship and you're using and you're playing a game like this and you're in a committed relationship, or they still have things like this in real life, maybe not with the physical emulation, but they still have things like this in real life. And there's been arguments, is it classified as cheating, or is it just harmless, or is it a better alternative to cheating? Like, would you rather your partner be playing this fantasy game than actually going out and physically using their body parts to cheat on you? Is it a good alternative? Is it ethical? Should we just be doing the deed with people in person, or in the new age, surely we should be allowed to explore things like this, or is it like porn? Will it ruin sexual experiences in real life? So let me know what you think. I thought that was a quite interesting question or debate to bring up. Do you think software like this or similar software that's available right now, do you think it's too strange? Do you think people should just stick to having physical sex in real life? Would you classify it as cheating if you found your partner using the software or a similar thing that is available right now? So yeah, let me know what you think. Ooh, or if this something like the Striking Viper is would become available, would you use it yourself? I'm not gonna lie, I'd probably try it out. But yeah, okay, moving on. The next episode 2, is called Smithereen. It starts off with this like suspicious looking guy picking up somebody in a taxi, and he asks them, "Oh, do you work at Smithereens?" And they say no. So obviously at that point I'm thinking, this guy looks really creepy. He looks like he's looking to find somebody, and the Smithereens name, I already kind of twigged it's something to do with this Smithereens thing. So Smithereens is basically supposed to be symbolic of social media, things like Twitter and Facebook. So yeah, it's a symbol of social media. And then after, he's at a support group, and basically this woman talks about how her daughter killed herself. She's angry and she doesn't know why she killed herself. So immediately at that point, if you consider the episode as a whole, that point is kind of just like a throwaway sub storyline. I don't think it was really that important to actually include that scene in there, or that character. But we have her in there, and she says her story. We don't hear his story at this point, so there's that kind of thing of, what's his story? And why did she kill herself? Is it something to do with social media? Is that the issue? And we see another scene where he seems annoyed with the sound of like social media notifications. So we also kind of know he's kind of anti-social media. So I kind of instantly thought that maybe there was some bullying or something else that went on social media that influenced the daughter to kill herself. The daughter, she gets speaking to the taxi man, who we find out his name is Chris later on in the story. She gets talking to Chris and asks him out for a drink, and then they have sex. And then after they have sex, they start talking, and she kind of reveals that she kind of wants to find out, she wants to get to the bottom of why her daughter killed herself, and she thinks that the answer is on her persona account, which is basically another symbolic social media site. But because of privacy laws and stuff like that, they won't give her access to the account. And that also opens up another debate. I feel like there's been lots of debate, like when people died, like their phones or their iPads have been locked and Apple hasn't given them access to their phones. Should it stay private, or should grieving people like your parents be able to have access to your account after you die? I personally don't think so. I don't think so. I think the only thing that I'd want anyone to have access to would be my photo album, because my photo album is pretty PG-13. So that's the only thing I'd want anyone to have access to. Oh, and maybe my notes, actually, my notes. And anything on my laptop. I guess maybe that should be in your will now. Maybe that's what we have to do, start putting things in our will, like I give access to my social media privacy, but only certain sections. What do you know? Let me know if you think, well, let me know what you think. Do you think that if you were to die, do you think that your loved ones should be granted access to your social media accounts? Or do you think it should be a thing where people should now be writing things into their will, which, as I'm saying it, sounds crazy. But anyway, back to the story. She's basically been trying to hack into her daughter's account, and she's got 3 goes to guess the password every day, and she's just been doing that every day. So after that, he goes back to that place. So it's very clear that he has been targeting this Smithereens place. He ends up picking up somebody who works there, and he kidnaps them at gunpoint, and basically says that he wants to talk to Billy Bowers, which is, I guess, is the founder of Smithereens. He turns out to be an intern, but he still kind of holds him hostage anyway. So there's a whole hostage situation. He drives off into some field, and then the police come, and it's a whole kind of hostage situation. So within the whole hostage hold-up, we find out that his fiancée died, and we find out that his mum died. And overall, it's looking like he's had a pretty rough 6 months. And perhaps this is what's driving him to do that. So then within that, he gets the intern to call HR, and then he gets HR to call somebody else who knows the higher-ups, and then the higher-ups decide what to do. And they initially don't want to put, and they don't want Billy Bauer on the phone. And I feel like that is probably a realistic action of what would happen. I feel like they'd always prioritize the business first, and they would rather go with something very risky, like trying to send in a SWAT team, knowing that the intern could be at risk, or the lower level person, somebody who's not of as importance to the company. They'd rather do they'd rather do it that way, knowing there's a big risk that the intern could become collateral, and they don't really care, and they don't really value their interns as human beings. So I thought that was a very interesting aspect of that, and another reminder that the people that you work for kind of don't really care about you. And then after that situation, there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of, oh, don't put Billy Bauer on the phone. Eventually they get hold of Billy Bauer, who's on like a silent retreat, and he wants to speak to this guy, but her higher-ups are saying no, but he does it anyway. He ends up on the phone to him. There's a whole SWAT team. The FBI's on the phone. And he basically reveals that he was driving late at night and he checked his phone, which had a smithereens notification. And then because he was distracted, he ended up crashing his car. And that's why he's gone through all of this. And he blames Billy Bauer for making the app so addictive. And after all of that, I was quite disappointed with that storyline. I thought that was very poor writing, but then again, I have my own kind of opinions on that subject. I don't think people should be using their phone on. I don't think people should be using their phone, checking social media, listening, switching their phone to listen to music, while they're driving. And in the UK, I think it's just been over a year now, but it's illegal now to use your phone while you're driving. You can get banned from driving, or you get like 6 points off and you get a fine. But I've been to other countries where I went to Dallas last summer, and people just drive, and people use their phones while they're driving. And bearing in mind everything's on a kind of motorway, makes things even worse. I personally don't think that people should be using their phones. I think accidents will still happen anyway, but I do think that it is a factor with phones and stuff. People are distracted, but I'm not sure if it's more phones or music or social media or times rather than like music and stuff like that. Whether what one has the most impact of distracting drivers, social media or music. Either way, the whole argument of it's the social media provider's fault for making it addictive, so addictive that he used his phone while he was driving, is redundant to me. I feel like everybody knows you have to be a responsible driver. And yes, social media is addictive, but I feel like if you're getting in a vehicle, you know that you are responsible for not only your own life, but you're responsible for the people's lives who are in your vehicle and other vehiclists and people on the road. You know that when you're doing your driving test. So this whole because you didn't have the self-control to turn off your phone while you were driving, that is your own fault. And then to make it this whole big thing, you've got hostages, you've got the FBI on the line, you've got this poor intern in the back of your car because you didn't turn off your phone. I just feel like it's very entitled of Chris, and I feel like it was very trying to make me the victim when everything is your own fault. And I feel like that big reveal was very anticlimactic because I just felt that was very stupid, and it really disappointed me actually. And I don't really resonate with that message. Like, just don't use your phone on social media. But this whole thing of like the phone was so addictive that he couldn't stop using it even when he was driving is stupid. Very stupid. But let me know what you think. Do you think that do you agree with the argument that like social media is so addictive that you'll put your life in danger while you're driving? I don't know, but then again, I'm not a driver, and the reason why I'm not a driver is because I don't. I live in London, and Londoners are like notoriously known for not driving. But because I understand the weight of responsibility of me being a responsible driver, and because I live in London, most of the time I'm taking public transport, so that's why I kind of haven't learned to drive. And if I was to learn how to drive, pass my driving license, I probably wouldn't drive because one, I don't really need a car, and two, the responsibility. Responsibility has been a big thing for me. I don't think I'm ready to be a responsible driver yet. So what do? I don't drive. And if you know your phone is addictive, what do? You turn it off. Simple. So after all of that, I was a bit disappointed. But after that, obviously it continued. Chris had already decided at that point he was going to kill himself. And he lets the intern go. And my thing is, this whole time you've been looking around, this intern, you've been looking around, you've been trying to make a break for it, you've been trying to get out of this car, but now you're the person who's held you hostage after telling you that they were going to let you go. You've been anxious all episode, thinking he was going to kill you, tells you you can go, and then he wants to stay in and be righteous and be oh, don't kill yourself, you're going to regret it, all of this walla walla, yeah. Personally, if I was that intern, I wouldn't give a fuck. You goddamn tied me up, have me up here vomiting. I've got vomit on my face. You had me call up my fucking HR. You've sent a picture to HR of me looking all vomited and nasty at the place that I'm working at. You've held me up here all day. Now I'm probably going to be on the fucking news for a whole week. Do what you want, Shadi. I don't care about you. You want to kill yourself? Go ahead. And then, fair enough. He has his views on suicide. Everybody else has their own views on suicide. Like, some people think it's a choice for people to do, and some people are like, every life is precious. We should stop people from killing themselves. It's like the worst thing anyone could do for themselves and do to their families. He's on that moral wave. My thing is, okay, you think, suicide is morally wrong. So yeah, you're entitled to say, don't kill yourself. But to go to the trouble of fighting with this guy and his gun after he's had no issue with you being hostage with you being his hostage the whole day, going to the trouble of actually grabbing the gun to try and stop him to do it. And it's like you grab the gun and now you're fighting. Now you're fighting with somebody with a gun which is loaded, because at first he was saying that it was a replica, then the police started moving in and he was like, no, psych, it's a real gun. He starts fighting with the gun, and then on top of that, you're not alone. There's armed police out here, there's snipers out here, and everyone has knowledge that, and even Chris, warned him, like, if you struggle, they're going to start shooting because they're going to think something's wrong. So they start struggling. So again, this guy's held you hostage. You have no obligation to him. You're now grabbing the gun because you don't want him to kill yourself. Fair enough, you took that extra shot. But now this guy that wants to kill himself is fighting with you with a loaded gun. And I believe that you, even though you don't want him to kill yourself, you yourself want to stay alive, no? But now you are here fighting with this guy who's taking you hostage because you don't want him to kill himself over a gun which could potentially go off and kill, if not you, but both of you and him. So that struggle ensued, and then basically the police start taking their shots, and then we don't really see the end of, like, obviously we see the sniper shooting, but we don't actually see any bodies. We don't know if Chris died. We don't know if the intern died. So, yeah, and that's how the episode ends. So, I thought the episode ending was a bit rubbish, and I thought the payoff, the storyline reveal was rubbish. But up until the point where up until the point until he revealed why he was going through all of this trouble, I thought that it was a really good episode. Obviously, there was a few discrepancies. I feel like the whole woman thing, the whole kind of storyline of the woman trying to get into her dead daughter's account was didn't really need to be there. At the end of the episode, we see that they do give her the password after Chris basically asks Billy for a favor, after Billy begs him not to kill himself. So then after that, I just think it was a kind of average episode. I feel like the writing was really strong up until that point, and then it kind of just went downhill, and then it kind of felt like this whole big drama was very unnecessary. So yeah, let me know what you thought of that episode. I would personally give it a 3.5 out of 5. It was a good episode, but the payoff was quite bad, and I feel like I thought like it should have been something like maybe she was like bullied on social media. Like maybe if she was like a person of color and she had been like targeted by fascists, and they were bullying her, and they tried to report it to, you know, the social media heads, and they didn't do anything, and then she ended up killing herself, or somebody ended up killing her. I felt like that would have been a better reveal, and then I would have understand why he went to that trouble. But yeah, I didn't. I let me know if you thought that the storyline was solid and whether I'm being too harsh. But I feel like the storyline was not solid. So yeah, that's my piece on that. So let's move on to the final episode. Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2. So obviously they've promoted it a lot. Miley Cyrus is gonna be one of the main characters in one of the episodes, and it's the final episode that she's starring in. So basically, the whole episode is about, it's about like kind of two kind of stories that intertwine with each other. It's got Miley Cyrus's character, who's called Ashley, and she's a singer, and she's basically a manufactured singer who dances to the tune of her managers. One of those ones where you've got an airtight contract and your soul is basically owned by your music company. She wants to do real music and she wants to change her look and stuff like that, but obviously her managers are quite resistant to that, and they're very controlling, and they have these controlling drugs, and they're not really here for her trying to resist their pressure from her, because they have this idea of what will sell and what will make them money, so they don't want anything to negate from that. Then they have a separate storyline with Rachel. She's this new girl at this school, and she doesn't really have many friends, but she loves Ashley and she's her biggest fan, and she asks her dad for an Ashley 2 doll for her birthday, which is basically this robotic doll. Basically is like supposed to be like a mini copy of the persona of Ashley, the pop star. She's like really like, oh yeah, let's do this, like let's have fun, let's learn the dance moves of my music videos, change your hair color and your makeup so that you look like me. And yeah, so basically Rachel becomes very dependent on this doll, and it's kind of becomes a very unhealthy relationship. The doll convinces her to enter into a dance competition, into a talent show and dress up exactly like her, and that goes really bad. And then after the show goes bad, she's like, oh, I've let Ashley 2 down, which is essentially a robotic doll. So after that, her sister Jack is not here for the Ashley 2 doll. She kind of sees that it's a bit toxic and that it's probably not healthy for her sister to have this doll, so she hides the doll, and then her and her sister get into like an argument about it. So Ashley is now, planning to rebel against her management. She's basically figured out how to get out of the contract because she can prove that her management were giving her illegal drugs, which voids their contract. But her management basically twigged that, and what they did is they drugged her, put her in a coma, and then basically they've just kept her body there as a vessel, and they're using her brain. They're using technology to basically, because she makes music in her dreams, and they basically got technology that can basically take the music that she makes from her brain and then make them into music. So she's basically now just like a music cow. And it's getting very, futuristic, conspiracy theory-ish. Because she's basically in a coma for 6 months now. Rachel, I guess she realizes, she realizes that her doll is very fake and manufactured, and perhaps not the best thing she should be looking for as a friend. But then something happens with Rachel's doll, and she glitches, and then she breaks, and then her and her sister Jack try and fix it, and then they end up basically, because obviously the doll is supposed to be has like her whole person. It's like a computer configuration of the real Ashley's personality, and basically this whole time it's had a limiter on it, so basically it can only access the manufactured parts of her personality, so her media personality. But now they've accessed her whole brain, that's how they've kind of worded it as, like it's her whole brain now. So they're seeing like the real Ashley, and obviously she's been watching TV, and she basically tells them everything. She spills all the tea about her management and how her management have done this to her and what they're planning to do to her. Convinces them to break into her house, so that into Ashley, the real Ashley's house, so they can get some information from a laptop to prove all of this, so then they can get some sort of justice, I think. So Rachel's still her like biggest fan, so she convinces her sister to help her. They break into the house, they stun gun the bodyguard, and then they find Ashley's body all hooked up to all of these machines. And Ashley too basically pulls the plug on the real Ashley, and basically she was never going to find any evidence from the laptop, which I thought was quite dodgy, because I was thinking the management probably covered their back and destroyed all kind of evidence that would incriminate them. So she basically just went there to pull the plug, because she's her brain, like she thinks how the real Ashley would think. So she kind of says that, the real Ashley wouldn't want to be like a music cow for the rest of her life. So she pulled the plug, basically trying to kill her. But she doesn't end up dying. She actually wakes up from the coma. One of the music management people obviously gets a notification that the power of their music cow machine is not working. So he basically comes to put her back into the coma, but the other girls are there hiding, and then they manage to knock him out. And then basically her management is trying to, I guess they plan to kill her. I'm not sure what they were going to do, whether they were going to download her brain and then just kill her body. But yeah, they basically decided that they were going to make her into a hologram now, and that they were just going to milk her as the hologram around the world, basically. And so that also kind of sets up the debate of hologram, because that's quite interesting debate. A lot of people say, should we now have holograms? Because lots of people don't like to perform, whether it's because of anxiety or whether they're just lazy. Like, obviously, it takes a lot of work to perform. You have to go to the gym. You have to make sure you're looking right. You have to train your vocals. And you have to, think about things that you eat and drink. Will it affect your body? Will it affect your vocals? And then, of course, you could get sick, which means that you'd have to postpone things, and all of that stuff costs money. So a lot of people see holograms as an alternative, and also for dead artists too. People think about holograms, but people are kind of not with it. People still believe that some things shouldn't be digitalized, and that we should live in the moment and actually go to concerts where the artist is actually there performing. So yeah, I'd be interested to know what you think about holograms. Personally, I wouldn't go and pay and see a holograph. I think it is a bit lazy and a bit cheap. Even as a dead artist, I wouldn't go see holograph Michael Jackson or holograph Aretha Franklin, because it just seems a bit weird to me. But let me know if you think it was a cool idea, if you would go and see a holograph. But anyway, so they wake the real Ashley up. They get her out of these restraints that she's tied to the bed as the music cow for. They get her out of the bed, and then they race to go to the conference where they're trying to pitch the idea of Ashley as a hologram. They get there. There's a police chase, but they get to the stadium in time, and they manage to stop it. And then Ashley gets her happy ending, and she gets to play the music that she really loves to play. So, what I thought of that episode, I thought it was an average episode. I didn't think that it was that good. I thought that the writing was very lazy, and I feel like the concept was good, but it wasn't executed well. For instance, in the second half, when we gain access to after the Ashley 2 malfunctions, we get to see more of her real personality. But before, it was kind of she was just grumpy, depressed grumpy, depressed music artist. So I feel like it would have been nice to see that before they drugged her and put her in a coma. It felt very weird, her suddenly being this spunky, relatable, fun character after just being depressed the whole first half of the episode. And also, it kind of felt like it didn't really feel very Black Mirror-ish. Other than the thought harvesting thing, it didn't really feel very Black Mirror-esque to me. It felt like it wasn't like an episode that they wrote that wasn't an episode that they wrote and they thought Miley Cyrus would be a good fit for this episode. I feel like they wrote it to pitch to Miley Cyrus, if you get what I mean. And then the story with the two girls, it seemed like almost like it was a Nickelodeon film. It didn't feel like it was a Black Mirror film at all. I feel like the writing was very lousy and it could have been better. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you actually like that episode. I thought it was very strange. I thought it was very average. So I think I'd give it a 3 out of 5. It wasn't a terrible episode, but it's not kind of the standard that I would expect from Black Mirror. And Miley Cyrus is quite a good actress too. So I felt like it's a shame that they didn't have a better storyline for her because she is a good actress. So yeah, so out of everything, obviously, I feel like the first episode, Striking Vipers, was my favourite episode. Then it was Smithereens. Then it was the episode with Miley Cyrus. Overall, as a season, I feel like it was a pretty average season. I probably, because of all of the scores, like the average is like 3 out of 5. But Striking Vipers was really good as a standalone. I feel like everything should have been at the standard of the first episode. So it's a bit of a shame. I feel like the quality has been a bit lazy this season. And considering it's only been 3 episodes, it's very disappointing that I feel like they didn't really put that much effort, like a whole year, to produce just 3 episodes. I feel like they spent all of the money on Miley Cyrus's episode that the writing just wasn't that great. I feel, and maybe that's why there was only 3 episodes, and that's why the quality is not as of the standard that it usually is. So yeah, let me know what you thought of this season. Let me know if you were also disappointed, or let me know if you found all of the episodes really strong, and let me know what your favorite episode was. I think most people would either pick Smithereens or Striking Vipers, but my personal favorite was Striking Vipers. So yeah, that's the end of my video. I'm currently on 194 subscribers, and my next short-term goal is to get to 200 subscribers. It'd be such a milestone for me. So if you could subscribe to my channel, that would just make my whole year. I hope to be more proactive with my TV series and my film reviews. So stay tuned, and till next time, guys, bye.